pressure?
What was that?
What, his blood pressure?
Let's call this meeting to order. We're here to discuss the preliminary parts of the budget. And without further ado, I'm gonna turn it over to you, Mr. Gill.
Okay, just a brief opening statement. You know, we'd like to provide the services next year that we had this year, plus, obviously, we'll be opening 3 new schools, the 2 middle schools, and also magnet school, which will result in substantial need for cash. And we'll explain in a minute where that cash will come from. We haven't done any tier work because we're not asking to do anything new. We're not asking to add new positions with the exception of teachers. That will ultimately staff growth and also the 3 new schools. But I've given you a sheet here that you can work off of, and I'd like to start from the top and go down this sheet. We're estimating our need next year for a total budget to be $256,728,092 versus the 2009, 2010, $243,417,071. So that's roughly an increase of $13,311,021 or 5%. Now our intention is to basically honor what I said in the paper, is that we're not going to ask for any new money from the county. Don't think we'll need any money. We realize the crunch they're in, but at the same time, we not only hope, but expect they'll hold the line with respect to what we've got on our share of the tax rate. The reason we'll need that money is we'll need 107.8 positions being added, or 3.1%. Some of those will be at Whitworth, Buchanan, Oakland Middle, and Central Middle, if you'll see the second line. And the remainder will go to deal with growth, which is anticipated between 2 and 2.5%, which is roughly, I believe, 90 more teachers to accommodate that growth, isn't it?
In total, yes.
In total, okay. Other than expenditures for these schools, it is very much a budget for tough economic times. There are no across-the-board raises, just the step raises that are built into our salary schedules. The certified salary schedule also includes the level raises for new degrees, something we've done for years and years and years, and I would presume that we will still do that. Now, if you look at the next line, positions reassigned and eliminated through not filling vacancies. What we've done so far to cut costs and also to conservatively try to make it through this budget year is there's 14.5 EAs that there'll be reassignments, and we'll cover those ESL and reading coaches. In other words, there's 14.5 positions we don't intend to refill. We'll use the personnel we currently have in the schools, and we'll stretch that personnel a little further than we have in years past. We've talked about going from a regular ed EA serves 3 teachers. In most cases now, we're serving 4 teachers in a school, which saves us some money. And also, please be mindful that by doing these kind of things, we should be able to avoid any kind of layoffs, which is crucial to us. Next, we've cut back to 1.5 band instructors per middle school, and that allowed us to reassign 2 to cover the new schools. Also, the school technology specialists, we've cut 2 of those positions and reassigned those teachers somewhere else in the system, and we shared between elementary schools other folks that are STSs to make that work, make that a doable deal. So by doing that, we save roughly $125,000. The 2 spectrum teachers, I know some of you heard a little rumbling about that. Also, I sent you a correspondence telling you we're going to do that. We saved about another $120,000 by doing that. Assistant principals, we've only added 2 and reassigned using SACS guidelines. And despite several of them wanting more administrative help, we just haven't given it. We are very near meeting SACS standards, but Again, these are tough times. Same holds true for guidance counselors. We've only added 2, despite the fact that we're opening 3 schools. And we'll still be able to meet all those needs. Okay, next line. If you read the next, yeah, it's pretty revealing. We say we need $13,311,000 more dollars next year. Here's why. Our contribution to the state retirement fund is going up $3.4 million. Obviously, it's an unavoidable cost. An additional $1.1 million more towards medical insurance due to higher participation. I think we could all speculate on why we have higher participation. $1.65 million step raises for existing staff, which includes FICA and Medicare. Another $250,000 loan payment for the lighting sensor project. But again, that's going to pay off in due time. That's $6.43 million. Now, it's going to cost roughly $4 million to open Oakland Middle, Whitworth, Buchanan, and Central Magnet. The new bus routes added will be $300,000. Also, $2.9 million for the teachers that we've referenced above, the new teachers that'll cover growth in the school system. That should total out roughly $13,300,000. Now, I know there's been some discussion of a 2% classified raise. If the board still wants to do that, we need to find $546,000 more dollars somewhere. Now, I don't know if there are questions there. Let me go ahead and finish up, and then we'll go back and ask questions. Revenues. First of all, the April BEP estimate is extremely preliminary, but it looks as though we'll get another $7.25 million increase from the state. Now, we don't know a lot about any natural growth in the property tax that we may see. Lisa's here, and I'm going to ask Lisa in a minute to give us some kind of, I don't know, it'd be hard to give a forecast, but maybe you could tell us what you know, Lisa. We're hoping that we come up with another, is it realistic to think we might have another $1.5 million, $2 million property tax? Okay. Now, if we don't, we say we need 13 million, we know we got 7.25. Well, let me ask you this, do you anticipate we're gonna get some money from somewhere, local money?
Well, we're projecting a decrease in your sales tax.
And you don't think we're gonna get any more property tax?
Here's, I hate to say anything on property tax, I feel like it would be a little bit more, but I hate to say anything without having information from the assessor's office.
Well, say something, please.
Today I don't have anything to offer.
Well, okay, well, Jeff and I think we're gonna get something. Okay. That said, we're at $7.25 million. Now, out of fund balance, it is our anticipation that we've got $4 million to open those schools, right, Jeff? Now, that might require that we don't purchase this year's textbook adoption, which is English and I believe foreign language, isn't it, Mr. Odom? That money's budgeted, and it's not out of the realm of possibility that we don't do that, period. How much money are we talking about, Jeff?
2.5 million, until we get the orders in, it's hard
All
to
right,
say.
what have we got in fund balance again right now?
We have we have 10.4 after we do $500,000 amendment.
Okay, what's 3%?
That would leave us about 2.7 million.
So if you add back the textbooks, you're talking 2.7 and 2.4? You're talking about another $5 million, which gets us in the ballpark of the $13 million that we need to go forward. You know, we obviously have to open those schools. We don't have any wiggle room with regards to retirement contribution, medical insurance, or step raises. So obviously, this is going to be a year where we tap deeply into our fund balance. At the same time, we got to keep it at 3%. We've got to pray that somehow with property taxes help us out too. Lisa, you want to say something?
Well, it's real
Yeah.
So, the whole calculation just takes what the new appraisals are and divide that into how much money the tax rate gave us last year. And sometimes you do some growth, which you naturally have. That's why I'm hesitant to say anything.
But if there weren't any county money at all, we still anticipate at least 7.25 million. If we don't adopt textbooks and we use what's currently in fund balance, that gets us to about $12.5 million.
I think we can get to that range.
Yeah,
And,
which is what we gotta have to open these schools and to offer the same services we have now and not cut any positions.
and on, do you want to elaborate some on the textbook, the two adoptions you're looking at, Mr. Gill?
I mean, in our discussions, Mr. Odom and I both think next year's math adoption, we think it's more critical that we actually purchase math books next year than we purchase language this year. You know, ideally, in a perfect world, we'd purchase both. But I mean, I think we can get by with holding off. I mean, I don't know another solution. Do you?
I don't.
So does that mean we'd wait a whole nother cycle to do language, or would it?
We've
like a
adopted
6-year
it. I mean,
cycle or
we
something?
could come back if there was some money that
Right.
available. I don't think we'll wait the entire cycle. Have we ever waited the entire cycle?
I don't know in early, well before I came, we have not had to do this any of the years I have been here.
Yeah.
But the English standard, the English adoption we currently have is still well aligned to the standards, is that the way to phrase it, Mr. Ray? Yeah.
Any other questions?
I want to go back and hit Lisa up again if I can.
Go ahead.
Wayne, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. You can go ahead and go.
So you're telling me you don't think there's much potential for us to have any additional local money if everything's left alone?
I'm hoping that there's gonna be some, I just don't know how much at this point, honestly, to tell you on the current property tax. I'm most concerned about the local option sales tax, because we won't, I don't believe we'll hit the estimate we've got this year, next year. Estimated today after we've got the numbers, 39 months, estimating sales tax at 35,100,000, and that's a $1.6 million less than this current year.
How much of that goes to the schools?
That's the school on half.
That's our share?
Yes.
Doesn't that occasionally pick up this time of the year too? I mean, doesn't it?
We've had 13 months of negative growth.
Okay.
Now,
It's time for some growth then.
and yes, it's time for some growth. April, May, and June last year was about 7, 8, 9% than the 3 months of the previous year. So I'm hopeful it will rise, but we haven't seen it yet.
Well,
This is my estimate for now, and we will adjust that as we,
Yeah.
as the months go on, but today,
well, and the county will still have to meet local maintenance of effort.
I know.
So, I mean, has there been any discussion that y'all would dip in any kind of surplus fund or any kind of debt service or anything if, in case schools and sheriff can't make their budget?
Yes. Yeah, I think that's one thing on what you said, pointed to, is to maintain effort that we did this year.
Wayne?
Mr. Gill, the $4 million for opening the 2 middle schools and the magnet, is that equipment, is that desk and books and?
Personnel, that's the whole
The whole
shebang.
shooting match?
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to ask, and probably Chairman Wise and Mr. Doris Jernigan remember, about 8 years ago, I think a number of education assistants were laid off. Do you remember how many?
It,
We lost over 100 people.
It was a total of 131 full and part-time positions.
And the
Full-time
only reason,
equivalent, it was not that high.
no, that was, the only reason I asked that is, this 14.5, I just wondered how that will impact us, because it seems like, from my recollection, that really injured us academically, doing without those EAs. And I don't know if 14.5 will make that bigger impact.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think it's painful for the school because they do provide, a lot of individualized instruction for little kids. I mean, they help out in other capacities too, cafeteria, office. It makes it tougher for everybody when you spread your EAs through four teachers to one versus 3 to 1.
But you're doing that now, the 4 to 1?
Yeah, we've been doing that over the last 2 years in anticipation of where we are today, one, and secondly, as you process all this, I'm sure some of you guys are thinking, where can we cut? There's really very little we can do, because of required contributions, insurance, retirement. We know we gotta have teachers to staff the 800 or so kids coming in. Short of laying people off, that's our only option. And I don't think there's anybody up here that wants to build these 3 schools and not open them. So, we're gonna have to lean heavily on our fund balance, and hopefully we'll get some more property tax money, or that there'll be a separate solution like debt service or something else.
Terry?
I just got a couple questions. I got one for Ms. Nolan. On the reappraisals, did I understand you, as far as property taxes, basically say you don't see an increase? Let me tell you where I'm going.
I do know that what we based the budget on, and what after the buildings went out, I'll see some increase there. And then to say how much more, I guess, I'm going back to the experience we had 4 years ago, and when we drafted the certified rate and applied it, it wasn't that much increase.
All right, well, I'll leave that for another day, I guess.
I guess what I'm saying, if you think of what has happened in this county, and the reappraisal is supposed to generate the same amount of tax revenue as it did in the previous year, that the only thing you're gonna have is what is going to be new added to the tax roll in, 2010.
Okay, let me put it in another way. I've got one piece of property that went up $28,000 for whatever reason. I don't know. I'll deal with that when the time comes. Basically, what you're telling me, if I understand you right, is my taxes aren't going to increase on that.
Did you say your appraisal went up?
Went up 28,000. How it went up, I'll never know, but that,
So we'll have some up and some down, but once the calculation is made, the county gets no more tax.
all right, I'll have to decipher that another day, I guess. The other comment I've got, I'll just put it out here on this 2% deal for these, classified people. If there's any way at all, I'd like to see us fulfill that obligation that, we made. I guess if we don't do it this year, it'd be 5 years ago, 4 years ago. We paid the first 2, skipped last year, possibly skipping again this year, so, and I've heard, and I don't mind putting it out here, I've heard from a few of the maintenance people. I think it's an obligation we made, we need to try to fulfill it.
I agree with that. We didn't do it last year. If it's all possible, I wish we could do that, but I don't know that it is. Any other questions, Mr. Jernigan?
I have a question for Ms. Nolan. Sales taxes haven't been coming in as anticipated. How about property taxes? Are we seeing a default in the number of taxes not being paid, an increase in that area?
I will say, over the course of the year, I've had many panic times that the money was not coming in, that we were slightly behind. But when we closed out in March, we're back on track. So I feel good about the estimates that we have this year. At one point, I did think, well, maybe people were holding back. And they did have more people who were asking for the partial payments. Of course, then all the payments were in March, so it wouldn't go into the late.
When will we have some more information on the property tax?
I'm hoping Friday.
So when do we meet with the committee? Is it 29th of April?
It's May.
It's May, 29th of May?
27th.
Okay. Well, I was a month ahead of myself. But then again, I've always been faster than most people.
So Lisa,
Or just more incorrect?
Go ahead, Harry.
Lisa, you've been downtown for a while now. In your most optimistic, wearing your most optimistic hat, I mean, what could, on a wonderful day for the school board, how much more money might we get from taxes, property taxes? I know, you know,
And that's one, and I guess my pessimist hat is still on. Because it's not just the sales tax, it's business taxes and the job and wheel taxes is flat. I had estimated an increase, but we're not gonna get the increase,
in wheel tax.
wheel tax. So that's, and then the other item that's hitting, not just y'all, but all of us, is the interest income. So we're estimating a reduction in that too. But I think it goes back to what Jeff said, and what the county's gonna have to deal with is to make sure that we at least, I guess you did that when you were in your budget, is ensuring that we met our effort, however we do it.
But you still didn't answer my question.
I don't know.
Keep trying every
You
week.
tried, yeah.
So on maintenance of effort, Jeff, in this budget, is that all you assume from the county, or did you assume something in addition to maintenance, or has that
I'm still
figured
hoping
in?
for a little growth.
Yeah, we were hoping for some growth.
Well, but you have to jump on
Somebody's gonna pay for
Well, what I'm getting at is,
I'm thinking what the growth it is gonna help offset these negatives.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
but in calculating this $13 million gap, are you assuming only maintenance of effort from the county, or are you assuming something slightly more?
I was hoping for some natural growth in the property tax
So if I wanted to.
without changing the certified rate.
So
What
the-
are you estimating reductions?
Since I haven't had property tax numbers, and you haven't been able to give them to me, I really haven't,
I meant the reductions in the other level.
I hadn't gotten too involved. I was anticipating reductions, but hadn't gotten, without that biggest piece, we're kind of blind.
What I'm getting at is the 13.3 could be more than that, right? Could be more, the gap could be larger than 13.3.
You talking about our expenditures?
The gap, yeah.
No,
Well,
I don't-
Between what we're planning on spending and what we're gonna get in. That's what I'm
I
trying
don't
to
think
get at.
I don't think our expenditures will be more than 13.3. Now, what is getting to that 13.3 is going to be the issue.
Yeah.
You know, that's using fund balance, 7.2.
About.
I don't think we're gonna need more than 13.25.
Right.
Is that answer, Mark? Not
The
really.
expenditure increase is 13.3.
Over last,
Over last year.
Over this current year.
Question is, how do we get to 13.3?
Right. About 7.25 of that, right
from
now,
the
is
state.
looking, we can plan on the BEP, and that leaves us about 6 million.
But you're assuming we're gonna get the same amount over, maintenance of effort this year that we got last year, and that's what I'm trying to get. That information, how much more than that are we getting this year?
We don't know until we,
We don't even know for this current budget year?
No.
Makes it hard to plan, doesn't it?
I mean, and I don't know that anybody on the board would be interested in doing this, but say it got to a position where we didn't get anything from you guys, and that we couldn't make up the difference through fund balance, that 5 cents that we put in towards capital projects improvement, What's a penny worth to us? 450,000? So we're talking about a, I mean, and I don't, again, the board may not be willing to do that. We've gotten good use out of that towards school improvement, but if it came down to opening a school and we'd make 430, so 430, that's what, 4 million, 4.2 million? I mean, that's our money that we let you guys have. I mean, if we needed to use part of that for our operational budget to make sure we got these schools open, I would think that the court would be amenable to that, wouldn't you?
It's not my fault,
You talking about the county court or the Supreme Court?
I'm talking about the county court.
Okay.
that's an option.
We don't want to use them.
Grant, you got a question?
Is it, I'll get basically, is there any possibility of getting any type of money from the federal, all this stimulus money that's running around? It doesn't appear to ever stop in this type of, locale.
Actually, Mr. Kelly, over 6 million of this year's, the current year's, and I'm assuming a similar amount for the 09-10 is stimulus money that the state is allocating as part of our BEP.
But it's earmarked and it's not really designed
well,
to
this-
take care of your budget, right?
This was designed so that the state could fully fund the BEP.
Okay.
Ronald, do you have a question? You sitting over there, you usually got one.
Well, I was thinking about a statement. I think we need to look at the budget as realistic as we can, and I also believe that as realistic as we can means that we should not expect a local increase. I know that as I listen to people in the community, if I remember correctly, all the commissioners' election is after the budget is set. And I think would be very difficult at the general feeling of people in the community to expect them to do anything except maintain the commitment. I just cannot see the position they're in, and not they're in, the community's in, getting an increase.
That's what we're asking, isn't that correct?
Absolutely, I mean.
We're not asking for any
We don't,
tax rate.
yeah, we don't want any kind of, we're not advocating any kind of tax increase. Obviously, it's not gonna happen, and
Well, when I say tax increase, I mean, like Terry's talking about, we're talking about people that is looking at for some reason, a reappraisal that's coming in many cases considerably higher, and they're looking at everything around them going down and are not even moving at all. Their attitude toward a higher bill from the tax assessor, for whatever reason, if it was $700 last year and it's suddenly $900 this year,
That's a tax increase.
that's a tax increase to them, and they're not going to be happy, and they're not going to be pleased with that concept for whatever reason. And that's my thinking. But I do have something else. As I go through our budget, we do a lot of contracted services. And I am questioning that, or is that contracted services in many different areas? I remember the Office of Attendance. There's a sizable amount of contracted services there. My question is, what is it? Is that a possibility of?
talking about for substitutes,
No, sir, I'm talking about,
STAR system.
The STAR system.
is that the STAR system?
To the,
Oh,
yes,
Lord.
sir.
There you go. You had to bring it up again.
The state is, it looks like it will be this year also. In the current year we're in, the state, that is one of the things, the state used some of its stimulus money. It charged us that, but after we paid the bill, it reimbursed us for it. But yes, that particular one is for the STAR system. The biggest contract service line that we have is special education services.
Right.
And the
$900,000.
reason that we flow those through the general purpose budget is, and the reimbursement percentage we get varies. They are expenditures we could pay from federal funds, but if we pay for them out of GP, we get some reimbursement from the state's federal funds the next year. It was about $250,000, maybe 280 this year. So that's why we run those through GP.
You finished now? Or,
Well, I just, to pick up on the contracted funds in special ed, those are services that we couldn't provide if, in-house. We have to go outside to get that kind of service. And I don't know where else you would go. There's, what program at Walter Hill, classic example of where outside services are providing assistance to our staff people there. My observation, that's one of the places. At Rockvale, some of those children are receiving services outside the system. I suppose we're having to pay some money at the Tennessee School for the Blind, and that would be an outside service. I don't know where else you would get those kinds of services if we didn't contract with someone to provide it.
I don't either.
go ahead, continue.
This is on another side. There are no planned increases on supplements, is there? Or no new supplements
No.
being rolled in?
No. I think it's pretty interesting to note, if you look at this first sheet of the thinner packet, I mean, this is pretty telling. If you compare the positions that we had this year versus next year, even though we'll be adding somewhere around 800 students probably, you know, one superintendent last year and this year, 43 principals, supervisors, directors stayed the same, teachers obviously went up, county's bookkeeper went up 1.7 even though we're opening 3 schools, computer programmer stayed 16, purchasing personnel stayed 2, guidance we only went up 2.5 even though we're opening 3 schools, psychological personnel made the same, 1/2 additional librarian even though we're opening 3 schools, social workers stayed the same, medical personnel, we're bringing on 3 nurses given the some of the conditions we have to deal with. Material supervisor 1, we actually dropped 2 computer personnel in a time we'd like to be increasing it. Assistant principals only went up 2 over this year, even though we're opening 3 schools. Secretaries went up 1, even though we're opening 3 schools. Clerical went up 3. EAs went down 8. Bus attendants stayed the same. Custodial personnel, even though we're opening 3 new buildings, only went up 9 people. Tells you how we're spread there. Maintenance personnel only up 1/2 person. Speech and language stayed the same. Others went up 0.6 of a position. So you can see we're holding the line on everything and even cutting position to make this doable.
Mr. Blair, you have a question?
I guess back in January, we were concerned if the state was going to be able to fully fund BEP till the end of the school year. Does BEP money come in after the fact, or does it hit it?
It's paid out over 9 installments, and I don't think we've gotten the 8th yet. Yeah, but then in June, we will get the final installment.
Okay,
And
so,
We've gotten the 8th. I haven't looked at April revenue.
but it looks,
I have heard nothing
adverse about that.
Nothing adverse.
The other point is that all these measures for being frugal, we're certainly going to have to make that crystal clear to our commissioners so they'll understand how, you know, how tight you've reined in this budget.
That's what Mr. Jernigan was saying earlier, Doris was. Donald?
Just for clarification on my part, Mr. Gill, when I looked at the new positions, in our current positions, our pupil-teacher ratio on general ed is about 1:17.
I'd say that's pretty close, would you, Mr. Odom? That's pretty close, yeah.
And in our budget, we're asking for new positions roughly 1 to 9. Is that,
Well, you got 800, anticipate 800 to 1,000 growth. You've got new schools that we'll be opening up too. You know, it's probably a little lower than that. Maybe we won't need all those positions, but we sure don't want to need them and not have them.
And some of the analysis that Mr. Odom did, when, the ones that are easy to track, your elementary classroom positions, we just don't have much latitude in those. And the latitude any latitude we've had where we were a couple of students under, we have used up in the last couple of years. So we won't be able to go over the BEP as long as the state fully funds it.
well, and I understand that. And I know that we're getting it tight. But this might be a time when we're looking at things so closely that we look at the high school ratio of teachers with students in a lot of classes. They have some latitude there, whereas we don't in our other situations. We might have to bite the bullet on some of those positions.
We've actually been rather proactive on that. We sent a correspondence to high school principals about a month or two ago saying that, looking at numbers, of course, a lot of their numbers are, you know, they have a lower pupil-teacher ratio, in part because of some of the foreign languages, the special ed, the APs and all that, but we basically said, we can't do this anymore. We're gonna cut levels, we're gonna have to do this. And they've all given us back 2 positions, so that we could, you know, use those in some other capacity across the system. So we have already, I think they're on notice that, it's gonna be hard for them to get a position. They're gonna have to do more than say, we gotta have it. We're gonna have to see numbers. You know, it's a lot easier to see, as you said, Jeff, your 20-to-1 ratio in the elementary school in a self-contained classroom. But it's gonna be hard for a high school principal to get a teacher during these tough times. And I appreciate you bringing that up.
I think parents can maybe expect, you know, you're a freshman, you may not be able to take your school through your sophomore. I think we're seeing now that where we've been able to accommodate people really in general, that we're not gonna be able to do that. And we're tracking, like you said, we're tracking pupil-teacher ratio, all of the CTE, your high school, see, it's 1 to 20 with CTE. So what's happening to us at the same time, you've got this new requirement that they have to have an elective focus, you know, to get out of high school. Now, you not only increase the credits requirements, we've created an additional period which teachers teach, and then they have to get that elective focus. So we're trying to balance all of that up. It's all coming at a very difficult time.
Mr. Blair?
The line item for the substitute teachers for the degree, non-degree, how does that, and I don't have what you normally send us out each month, does that waiver from year to year? Sometimes we have access, sometimes we have to take. How is it tracking this year?
Well, basically, I will do a late amendment to true that up. when I'm analyzing it, I add the two numbers together. And we have, with the down economy, seen more certified subs have been available.
So we pay more than.
Yes, we pay more.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I have some concerns about, for the teachers in the high schools. I'll use this as an example. A teacher for an AP class of algebra, let's say algebra 2, would that classroom number of students be the same as a regular classroom of algebra 2, population-wise?
Probably not. Actually, it would be smaller in most cases, which certainly if you're teaching the non-AP class, you don't think it's always fair. But, you know, the nature of the business is we offer those rigorous schedules and everybody and their brother doesn't qualify, but we still have them. Typically, we set a minimum 15, encourage a few more.
Out
And
of 44 kids,
Yeah.
there you are, you know, I mean, it's certainly more than 15, but it's not 230s either.
Yep.
That's what you want.
You know, your choices are, I mean, there'd be outrage among those parents if you try to eliminate those kind of classes. And I don't think we ever want to get there, you know.
I want to
Yeah.
encourage the AP classes. I want those children to receive all that they can receive. But I still worry about the one where they've got 35 students and one teacher versus 20 students and one teacher. The 20-to-1 has a decided advantage over the 35-to-1. And I think sometimes the 35-to-1 is just battling to survive. So and that's a problem. Because we really need more teachers to accommodate that population that, for that 35-to-1 classroom, because it's.
It would be nice if the kids came in neat little packages. but
We don't come in
I
equal
agree,
packages.
that's not a luxury we have right now, unfortunately.
But, I
But you
still
know,
worry about it.
you know what, we say this every year, and I'm sure people ultimately get tired of hearing it, but we still are one of the lower funded systems in Tennessee, and it's hard to make all this stuff work at $6,500 a kid, whereas some people have $8,000 a kid, which if you multiply that, you know, you're talking about 45 million more dollars. Well, we can do wonders with it.
We're also a very high achieving system, so that shows that we're doing what we can with the amount of money that we spend. I think that's, and I think for the most part, the public knows that. I
And
hope
the
they
reason
do.
we are so lowly funded is because of all the school construction. I don't pass any blame on to anybody. I appreciate the work of the court, and they've been pretty good to us.
You use foreign language often, so yes, often you've done that over the last couple
Yeah, we have.
How does this budget impact the things you've been doing in the past, the double dosing, the recovery, the credit recovery?
We've kept all that stuff. I mean, it's critical that we do all we can for at-risk kids. I mean, none of these federal mandates are leaving us with respect to being high priority or meeting the 8 subgroups and 45 in each group, and you still gotta make AYP each and every year, and you've got other race to the top standards that'll be coming out. So, no, we hadn't touched any of that stuff.
But I had made a note, we got 3 schools on target. Our graduation rate, we still struggle a little bit with that. We're all up where we need to be, but that's a constant pressure. The stronger curriculum for our high school students. Have we added anything to our budget to help us in those 3 areas? The schools on target, the graduation rate?
No, but we
Curriculum.
might be able to use some of that race to the top money somehow to help those struggling schools somehow. I mean, we're addressing that through, you know, we have given the Laverne Highs, the Oakland Highs, some of the schools that struggle, a few extra folks over the years in math. and other remedial opportunities. So we have addressed it, we're not cutting back on that, but we haven't added any money back to do any more, because there's no money to add back.
Will the Race to the Top give us an opportunity to improve some technology in some of the high poverty?
I don't know,
I
we're
know
working,
you
we're,
did-
Mr. Odom and I are meeting in the morning at 9:15 to look at Race to the Top and see what we can do. We might be able to do some technology. We talked about Central Middle. Don, you want to add to that?
But you might also want to say that if we hire personnel, the rule itself requires that we go to the funding body and secure their agreement to continue the funding at the end of the Race to the Top. So,
Which is.
Ouch.
play that one out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How come the number of principals hasn't gone up? We're opening 2 additional schools, right?
Jeff?
Yes, and one of the things just in the way I set up all of my files, and it's very deeply embedded in the logic, those principles started this year, partial year positions. I've tried tweaking it, and it's messed up other things. So their full year will show in the 10-11 budget, but a partial year shows for them in the 9-10 budget. So that's why the count did not go up. And the other 2 principles show in 105 supervisor director because of their alternative school principals.
We'll have 45 as of the fall.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, sir. Mr. Odom mentioned the elective path. I noticed in the vocational education, there's 6 new teachers, new positions there. That's a result of trying to get those lines through.
That's part of it. Then you've got your engineering, your biomedical at Central, which did that. And we looked other places, where we were seeing shifting numbers, like, again, it's shifting to health science, it's tend to be shifting to criminal justice, things like that. And we've actually, with some of the 2 positions the principals returned to us, some of those are actually maybe career technical education too, in areas that are no longer generating as much interest. In fact, that's what we're looking at, is ratio. But if you have, if they go into that, that's the 1-to-20 ratio. Career technical education is a 1-to-20 ratio. Regular classroom is 1-to-30 ratio. So if the kids getting these elective focuses go into career technical education, again, you got 20 versus 30 that you have to staff.
Any other questions? Blair?
Where's the, and I'm sure it's here somewhere, just so many pages, the materials for the career technical program, that they use? And
They
what
are
line item is that?
on page 4 of 31. Some of those items flow through the Perkins federal funds, which are not presented.
Now, is Perkins dollars, that's for all of the vocational, or just for the ag part?
It's for all vocational.
And Perkins dollars are a full 12, they issue those dollars for the entire 12 months, is that correct? Don't those dollars get paid?
No, the ag positions are, there's a kind of a strange 12-month calculation for those teachers. The Perkins funds,
Doesn't have anything to do
no,
with
they
that?
don't tie to that 12-month issue.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Testing. Tremendous increase there. I turned over and I had it circled as a 52.4% increase.
Mr. Gill, I can address that.
Go ahead, Don. Jeff.
The big change that you see in evaluation and testing, most of that we will be bringing forward an amendment for the current year. I misunderstood. I thought the state was reimbursing us for some of the additional tests we have taken on. What they did was they built it into a component in the DEP. So yes, we get state money, but it won't be an out-and-out reimbursement. So I will be making an amendment to the current year budget that will make it much more in line with the testing figures shown for next year.
So we're not really seeing a big increase, we're just,
Yeah, this year's is understated. Yeah.
Cover again for us what we pay on ACT and those types of tests and IB students and what do we pay for these kids?
The state mandates ACT. I think they fund that.
It flows through the BEP. This year's number was about 88,000 for that, the ACT taken in the junior year. The other ACTs, the children or their
Pay on
parents
their
pay
own.
for.
And the IB,
Same
same thing.
Same thing. There typically have been some grant funds that we could apply for some of, I think it's some of the AP.
About $20 if they're economically disadvantaged about the AP test. We're not paying anything on AP. ACT, the state covers one in the 8th grade, a plan in the
Yeah.
10th, and one ACT in high school. In the AP courses or IB courses, we are not paying those parents. We talked about that 2 years ago, remember that, what it cost.
I just think it's important to cover that again, because we have a tendency to forget. I do anyway. So I like to be reminded.
The state will, if a kid wants to take an AP exam, they're economically disadvantaged, the state will cover about $20.
Okay. Lisa, you say you may have some more information by Friday? Can you get that information to Jeff and he can get it out to us? Because I think the board may want, depending on what that information is, we may want to have another meeting pertaining to this. I would assume. Would you think so? I would think so, yeah. So, any other questions? I guess we could make a decision at that time whether what we want to do.
I'd like to ask a question of, as a board member, how can I help the director in presenting this budget to our constituents? How do I help get it to the county commission? How do I help get this out to the public? We certainly need their support here.
I guess that was directed at you, Mr.
Oh.
Gill.
Directing it to everybody.
Yeah.
There's 8 of us sitting up here. Hopefully, all of us have a concern about getting information and making sure that we're all together.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. I think the most important thing is for all of us to be on the same page, and once this is finalized, we need to be very supportive of it and not undermine it in any way, because as Mr. Gill says, we're not asking for a tax increase, and although there is more money in there, but we're also opening new schools, and we're doing a lot of things that we have to do, so. Anyone else have a comment about that, or?
I have maybe another question about the reappraisal. Now, does the county commission not look at that and then reassess or look at the tax? They make some kind of adjustment on that, don't they?
Actually, the state. There's no computation that they go through. I'll just kind of go back to what you were saying. Maybe I said, if this whole panel pays all the property tax in the county, and the property tax was $1 million, and because of reappraisal, your property on these 3 tables increased. And y'all's not increased a little, y'all's
Explain certified tax rate.
That certified tax rate is getting the tax rate back down to the amount that the appraisers would generate. I mean, it'll generate the same amount of taxes as it did, and you should expect the tax rate to go down because appraisals over all the county went up. So if appraisals went up with algebra, then the tax rate's gotta go down.
The adjustment is gonna make it stay the same or thereabouts is what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying. You've asked me, are we gonna see increase? The only increase logically that you should see is what properties Sustain new in 2010.
Or came off of what do they call it, green space?
Greenbelt.
Greenbelt, okay. And quite a bit of that happened too, didn't it?
We saw that.
Look at three tax, I've gotten three increases on three pieces of property.
Mr. Chairman, please. Mr. Chairman, ask Lisa about the default. There's some defaulted payments. A lot of houses went under. And they've been taken back by, in many cases, the loan companies or the banks. Where does that put us in the short run on that?
No, they still pay the tax.
Pardon me?
They still pay the tax.
They still have to pay those, and then a penalty that might be, okay. So on the short run, that should not hurt us. Right?
The bank is, got those.
Right, the one,
They're gonna be, they'll pay them. Typically, it's not where the problem is.
Mr. Journey, you got another question?
Well, I have two questions. One question's pertaining to utilities. I was thumbing through here, looking for that page. Did you figure some of the utilities actually going down?
Yes, sir. I tried to be conservative in that number. Because in this year's budget, we are running under budget. That's one of the positive areas in this year's budget.
Another question, and it is small compared to what we were just talking about. If I remember correctly, I noticed that on the principal sheet that we pay dues, or how's it listed?
We pay the SACs, those are the dues that we pay.
So that is not necessarily individual.
No, sir, it is
That is for the school that they represent.
the school and the school system.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All minds at ease. Meeting adjourned.